Hi guys, it's Deborah. Welcome to my channel. So in this video today, I'm going to talk about a CGM, which is a continuous glucose monitor. I'm going to tell you why I got one, why I'm using it, and how I feel it's going to benefit me during my alternate day fasting journey. So if you're interested in that, let's go. So, why a continuous glucose monitor? Well, it started while I was doing my ketovore challenge at the beginning of January. I'm no longer doing that ketovore challenge and I'm back on my alternate day fasting journey. But during that challenge, I was interested to find out what was happening in terms of ketone levels, primarily my ketone levels. I had done some research about getting a ketone monitor, but it's really difficult to find one in Canada, especially the popular one, Keto Mojo. So that process led me down a rabbit hole. I started doing more research, and apparently from the research that I was doing, a glucose monitor could be just as efficient in providing some feedback. If your glucose levels are low, it would tend to mean that your ketone level would be high, specifically if you're following a low carb diet or a ketogenic diet, as I was. So with that, I started researching a glucose monitor. But what I found was, I've never used one. When you prick your finger and you get that glucose reading, it's for that moment in time. It just captures that moment. And, you know, our glucose fluctuates from minute to minute, depending on what we're doing, what we're eating, all that kind of stuff. So I didn't feel like that was going to give me an accurate snapshot of the information that I wanted. So that led down another rabbit hole. And sure enough, I landed on a continuous glucose monitor. Right, so I started to dive deeper into this continuous glucose monitor and watch some of the, fasting gurus and the keto lifestyle people. And apparently this continuous glucose monitor is so efficient because it monitors your glucose continuously 24 hours a day for 2 weeks. You can wear this monitor, this sensor, and track your glucose during your sleep, during your fast, see what foods trigger your glucose. So I was like, okay, I want one. So once I made that decision that this is the kind of feedback that I wanted. But what happened was during that time, I had stopped doing my ketovore challenge and I have started my alternate day fasting journey. So my diet is different because now, the thing that I love about alternate day fasting is I eat whatever I want. But I've also made the decision to not consume any refined sugar at all. Like that was my commitment. Other than that, I was going to my plan is to consume the things my body's craving, to eat intuitively in my eating window, which is 8 to 10 hours, and just follow that protocol. I had massive success with my alternate day fast journey before. So I did alternate day fasting from August 1st, 2022 to December 1st, 2022. So 4 months, I lost 24 pounds and I was working on balancing my hormones, focusing on sort of the hunger hormones like ghrelin and leptin and those kinds of things. And then also focusing on gut health. I never really got to the gut health part because there was a lot going on. So those are the things I focused on. And also things like emotional eating and triggers and cravings. And, I kind of categorized myself as a sugar addict because these intense cravings I would get were for sugary things or high carb things. So that was that journey, and I feel I was very successful. So now that I'm going into this second alternate day fasting journey, which I'm kind of tagging season 2 because I'm documenting the whole thing. And there's it's a different foundation this time around. There's different things going on. My life is completely different than it was during that original, my first alternate day fasting journey. So I'm excited about this because I, have a much better understanding of fasting and what happens to my body and all that kind of stuff. I feel like I've, graduated. And then also really digging deeper into these things that I'm interested in, which is my hormones and my cravings, which I've kind of packaged into emotional eating, but I think it's much deeper than that. And I'm certain I'm going to uncover those because I'm tired of guessing. I'm tired of wondering. I'm tired of maybe it's this or maybe it's that, and on it goes. So I feel very empowered. I feel very sure that I'm making some decisions specifically for myself that is going to really propel me on this alternate day journey that I'm on the second time around. Another reason why I really became excited about my continuous glucose monitor was as I was researching, tracking your fasting blood sugar, your blood sugar after you've eaten, and all the different variables that can come with that. That led to more information about insulin resistance and what that looks like and how that can be the signs and the symptoms, and how you can actually know if you have insulin resistance and how to treat it. I did really feel that I could be a person who has insulin resistance and also probably very high cortisol levels. I mean, I have lived a high stress lifestyle up until recently. And so, and just kind of my beginnings in this world were very high stress, high chaotic. And it wouldn't surprise me if my adrenal glands are fried, to be honest with you. And so, but I just assumed, I've always felt like I'm just kind of randomly putting pieces together and then trying different diets and trying different lifestyles. And I'm like, oh my God, I think now, at least with this strategy, I may have some answers to some of these questions. I think I'm tired of guessing, and I'm tired of, looking at something that I think could be a potential issue. And then, I do almost all my research on YouTube because I really like real life stuff. But a lot of people say, here's the top 10 or the best 5 sweeteners. And if you use these, you won't have blood sugar spikes. And erythritol, I know for sure it makes me hyper. It makes me feel like I've had a shot of tequila or something. So I know that doesn't work. I know monk fruit doesn't work. I know certain things don't work, and then I know certain things do. But when stevia, and then I'll do some research and they'll say, don't eat stevia. It's the worst thing you could do. Or, there's information about, if you look for one thing, you'll find dramatic differences on every end of the spectrum. And I'm literally tired of not knowing for myself and following other people's thing. I think finally I feel like we're in a time and a place, and there's so many tools for us to discover exactly what it is we need as individuals on every level, but on a physical level. I think this little CGM is incredible, and I'm so excited to get the feedback. All right, so that was some of the reasons why I wanted to use a continuous glucose monitor. And I also realized that whatever the findings are, whatever information or things are revealed, fasting is the protocol to use. Lifestyle changes with insulin resistance, diabetes, metabolic syndrome. And these are all things that build on each other. And this is what our society is plagued with. This is like the pandemic. It's obesity, insulin resistance, diabetes, metabolic syndrome, all of that stuff coming out of however many decades of really bad food, the food industry. I don't have to go into all that, but you know what I mean. Right, so I made the decision, I want a continuous glucose monitor. And then I started to research, how do you get one? Plus, I live in Canada, so I researched continuous glucose monitor in Canada. And found that there is a brand called Freestyle Libre, and also another one, Dexcom, I think it's called. So when I started to research this in Canada, apparently you can get it from the pharmacy with a prescription, and then I did some research, some reviews, I guess, on the Freestyle Libre, and I'm like ground zero, didn't know anything about this stuff. So then I called my pharmacy in town, and I just live in this tiny little town in northern British Columbia in Canada, and sure enough, they had one. So I went down to the pharmacy, and I don't have a prescription, never even heard of this before last week. So I said, well, can I buy one? And she's like, sure. So that's what I did. I bought the Freestyle Libre, and originally I bought also the reader. This is the sensor, and it also comes with a reader, so I bought both. This was $100 and the reader was $75 or yeah. So then when I got home, I realized I can use the Freestyle Libre app to scan my sensor. So I returned the reader, everything was fine. I was like, oh my God, I got one. So I only just applied this yesterday. I'm gonna show you some of my readings because I'm just getting going. All right, guys, so I'm gonna just show you what came in my Freestyle Libre package. I don't know where you can purchase this product or any product outside of Canada. I know in Canada you can buy it at a drugstore, and also if you can also get a prescription, and it's covered under some healthcare plans. So what I also saw too online, there's a company who uses this in their fancy box, and you take it out and it's this, and then they also have an app where they take the data from the Freestyle Libre data bank or portal, transfer it into their app, and then give you a fancy patch as well. So just do your research is all I say. So what comes in the box is obviously these instructions, and it's very simple. There's 9 steps, and feel free to read all this, but these are the 9 steps. And so it comes with this little container, which is your sensor in there, and then came with some little alcohol wipes, and you just follow the instructions. And then this little gadget is the I forget what it's called, but it's the actual plunger. Oops. It's the actual plunger, because so what you do is you take this, well, if you're going to get one, just read the instructions. You screw it into here, and then the sensor is on there, and I just plunged it in, and it's a tiny little needle. I didn't feel any pain, so I'll just show you. It's right there. So what I've done is I ordered an over patch, it's called, because I don't know, it's on there good, but it's $100 and I don't want it to come off. There's something, I feel like in the shower or the tub, I can sit in the tub sometimes for half an hour, and I was like, I don't know how that's going to stay on. So I bought this over patch. It's just like a clear circle, and it goes on top, and it's waterproof, all that kind of stuff. So I'm waiting for that. Is coming in the next couple days. So then what I did, I waited an hour and then I downloaded the Freestyle Libre app. Right, so after that hour, I did my first scan. And also, I didn't even really know what the numbers meant. I had to use millimoles, mmol/liter, because that's the Canadian measurement variable, whatever, that I couldn't change it to the other one. In other countries, so they're quoting two different numbers, 5.6 millimoles, and then there's another one called, 120. So I first had to figure all that out. So my first reading yesterday was my eat day. So I was, scanning it constantly and then looking it up and not really knowing what the numbers meant. So between yesterday and today, I've done a lot more research just to even just understand what these numbers mean. So I'm going to show you my readings right here starting from midnight last night till noon today, which was just past noon, because I started to figure out that, find out what's a normal range, like a fasting glucose, what's normal, and so they break it down to normal, pre-diabetes, and diabetes. And so they give ranges for each one. So there's the fasting reading, and then there's the reading 2 hours after you eat, and then there's an A1C. So I'm going to put that graph up here, which is what I'm using to kind of figure out where I'm at. And so here's my reading from 12 midnight to 12 noon today. So 12 hours, sorry. And once I started to figure out, like you can see that in the middle of the night, my glucose, because I wake up a lot, it was high, 7, I believe it was. And then I've always said I'm not a morning person because when I wake up, I'm exhausted and it takes me a long time to get moving. And I never understood. I just said, all these years I've been just saying, I'm not a morning person. And it takes me a few hours to get myself, going. And it's been like that ever since I ran my own business. I didn't really get going until noon. And even now more, like, I'm just like, oh my God, it takes me so long. Anyway, so this reading that I did at 8:30, which is when I woke up twice and then I usually go back to sleep. So my sleep is really broken. And then when I did that scan at 8:30, which was when I was actually it was 8. I was like, and one of the things I had researched yesterday when I was going through like insulin resistance and kind of what that is and try to understand, there was this thing this concept called the dawn phenomenon. And I remember reading about that, it could be if your fasting glucose is high first thing in the morning, it can be considered this dawn phenomenon, which is a whole lot of stuff. All of these things are a lot of information. And so I'm, just sharing the learning that I've had to date. And if I say something and you're like, nope, that's not what that is, that's fair enough. I just am sharing where I'm at in this journey, which is the very beginning. Okay. So that was this morning, and I was shocked. I was actually shocked that it was that high, because it's my understanding at this point that a normal fasting glucose is between 3.8 and 5.6, I believe. And then pre-diabetes is 5.6 to 7 point something, and then diabetes is 7 point something and onwards. So when I saw that, I was like, oh my goodness, but I decided here that I'm not going to be scared of anything. I'm not going to panic, because I know that all of these conditions or situations are completely can be reversed through lifestyle, through all my information. Yeah, so the information that I've come across just from doing my research on fasting, especially alternate day fasting, well, from, all levels of fasting, because all levels of fasting are so therapeutic. But over and over and over, I remember reading and hearing and uncovering that any kind of fasting is one of the things that can reverse these conditions: insulin resistance, prediabetes, diabetes, metabolic syndrome. So when I saw that, I was like, okay, it's okay, Deb, don't freak out, because I'm just going to address it. And I, unless I had this little thing on, I would never know that my morning glucose was so high. At that first drop, I think it was around 9, that I had my coffee, which was interesting, and it went down, like big drop, which is promising for me because it means that coffee is something that can lower my blood sugar. And I feel better. It's like some of the symptoms of this dawn phenomenon, and I'll read those off in just a sec, are like extreme fatigue and not being able to, what is it called? Yeah, disorientation. And as soon as I have my coffee, I'm like, okay, I can function, and I think a lot of people feel that way as well. And maybe they don't even know what's happening or why that is. So some symptoms of that dawn phenomenon, which can also indicate a very high cortisol level, which affects your insulin level. And it's like this domino effect. So high fasting blood glucose in the morning, like upon that awakening, nausea. I mean, the thought of food for me right up until like noon makes me feel nauseous. Fatigue, extreme fatigue. And these are things that I feel I have. And weakness in the morning, like not being able to, weakness, disorientation, and extreme thirst. And yeah, so there's that. But, reading about these symptoms without actually having any concrete evidence for me, I've always been like, well, that could be anything, right? So, and interestingly enough, some of the signs and symptoms of prediabetes include similar: increased thirst, increased urination, increased hunger. I get the most intense cravings, hunger, to the point where it's like, I can't think. I'm overwhelmed by it, and that hangry thing, and it's almost like I have to get the thing. It's intense. And I've always associated that with some kind of an emotional thing, which probably is also part of it, but that sense of urgency has always felt very alarming to me. And then other symptoms of prediabetes include fatigue, blurred vision, increased infections, which, since I had my surgery, I've had a couple of minor things, which I just treat naturally. And then I had 2 abscess teeth in just the middle of December, which I'm still trying to fix my gut. So, and also a lot of these issues, insulin resistance, prediabetes, diabetes, metabolic syndrome, also have a direct correlation to our gut microbiome and our hormones, right? Especially women, we have different hormones, we have different hormonal cycles, we have different hormonal influences, and all of this stuff I'm just like, oh my goodness. Right. So all of that, what am I going to do? Well, first thing I wrote on my paper is do not panic. Don't panic. It's not going to do anything. My thing is I'm taking this very seriously. And I'm grateful that I have the information now. So the first thing I'm going to do is my alternate day fasting. They say any form of intermittent fasting for anything insulin related, because when you're fasting, there is no triggering of anything. Things do trigger, but fasting, it just stops the influx from eating. And I'm sure there's a deep amount of information out there, but I've never really researched it from that point of view. So I'm following my alternate day fasting, which is eat one day, fast the next. My protocol is 38 to 40 hour fast with an 8 to 10 hour eating window. And in my eating window, my last alternate day fasting journey experience, I focused solely on my fast. I really wanted to hammer that down and be as efficient as I could, because I knew that my body was healing from so many things. And I wanted to reach that level of autophagy, because then I knew that my body was really going through this healing process, which I did. So I'm obviously going to focus on maintaining that awesome, clean fast that I advocate, like clean fasting. And so in my eating window, the major thing that I'm going to focus on is no sugar, like no refined sugar. No chocolate bars with, Snickers and all the other chocolate bars. I like Snickers, was my favorite. So no sugar. I'm going to really be cognizant of the things that I buy. My intention is to stick to a whole foods eating. I do use some processed food, like I use a really good protein powder. It's processed food. So the processed food products that I am going to use, I'm going to be very careful with, and also I'm going to track my response. Like when I take a protein, I'm going to do a reading, and they say, here's how you can kind of test out a product, if it works for you or not, and at what time and all that. So that's what I'm going to do. Limit processed food, no sugar, but also I want to see a response to the sweeteners that I like, because I do want to I don't want to exclude the things I love, like ice cream, and I've been making my own ice cream. And so a couple sweeteners. So I want to test stevia. I want to test this glycine, which I've been using, which is actually an amino acid, but it's got a sweet taste. I have a feeling that's going to be awesome. And also I want to test allulose, because it's a sugar, it's a sweetener replacement, but it ends with OSE. And any of the other OS type of sweeteners have always affected me. So I'm interested to learn about the effect that allulose has on my glucose. And so the other thing that I'm going to do is get some blood work done. So I'm going to go see my doctor, and I can show him the readings. I'm completely committed to healing this or fixing this through lifestyle. I'm not going to take any kind of medication. Not when I know there's like massive amounts of information, research, data, clinical trials, all that kind of stuff that support a lifestyle change as a means to heal these things. So that's my commitment. And so the blood work that I'm interested in seeing is my cortisol level. I don't know what kind of blood work that requires. I want to also see my A1C, because there's like a percentage, just learning about all this stuff. I also want to get my hormones tested. I had that done maybe 3 years ago before I had surgery. I had a hysterectomy in 2020. And so since then, I have no idea about what my hormonal state is. I also want to do like the LDL cholesterol, like those measurements, factors. I want to just know about them. Yeah, so those are the things I'm going to do. That's a lot of information, and I hope that you got some value out of that, or it intrigued you to maybe learn more about your own self,
because the thing with this technology, I don't know how new it is, but you know, we're being given more advanced tools to take our health into our own hands and do something about it, you know. And this kind of thing where you can have constant feedback of how you're doing, and it empowers you to make the lifestyle choices that are good for you, because you know, maybe something will trigger my insulin or my glucose, and somebody else may not trigger them. In fact, it's very common that, you know, so if I said, oh, you know, this is food helped my glucose and you should do that too, and then you go and it doesn't work, right? Anyways, my whole point is, yay that we can figure this stuff out for ourselves. It's amazing. I'm so on board with that. So guys, if you got some value from this, please hit like, and I would so appreciate it if you subscribe to my channel. I am going to not only continue doing updates on my alternate day fasting journey, but definitely relation to this. So subscribing really helps my channel. It's growing and I'm inspired to put out more information. So I so appreciate you hitting that subscribe button. All right, guys, I will see you in my next video.